Hi, my name is Ryan, and I'm here to present you the Marshall Close-Up. Today I'm with Matt Hilbrecht. He has been a sheriff's deputy for 23 years. Matt, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Morning, Ryan. Thanks for having me on today. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Like you said, my name is Matt Hilbrecht. I currently work at the Marshall County Sheriff's Office. I've been there 23 years. I serve as the detective captain of the Sheriff's Office there. Began my career as a deputy and worked through the ranks, serving in a variety of positions over the years, and that's where I'm at today.
Okay. So there's always new police officers coming out, always. So what would you tell someone that just came in law enforcement?
Oh, goodness, that's a good question. First thing I would tell them is in law enforcement, people sit back and they think about the excitement of law enforcement, whether it be a car chase or a shootout or wrestling a bad guy. Most law enforcement is never that way. I mean, occasionally it is, but those are rare moments. So you want the new people you're looking for to have a servant's heart, because really we're here to help people, whether it be the victim of a crime or at an accident, any kind of terrible situation. Police are always involved, and we want those people to have a servant's heart, want to go out there and help the community and make the community a better place, and obviously make it a safer place is our ultimate goal. So not to get too caught up in excitement and adrenaline, and because you're probably going to be disappointed in this career if you think that's what it's all about. So that would be my first advice. My next advice is once you do make those arrests, we deal with the court system every day, and that can be very disheartening if you think you're going to go out there and make an arrest and everybody you arrest is going to prison, and that's just not the case. There's always the second chances, third chances, and fourth chances with our system, so it's kind of a revolving door, and that can kind of wear you down. So you got to be ready for that as a young guy coming out on the street, and just understand that's part of this job.
Can you describe a very distressing situation that you've been in?
Oh, goodness. Well, I've been in a lot of distressing situations over my career. I served on the tactical team for 15 years, and for 2 of those years I was the team leader. As team leader of the tactical team, it's always stressful when you're planning, say, a high-risk search warrant or something like that, and you're assigning guys even positions in the team stack, how they're going to go in, and it's kind of weighs on your mind when you think about if these guys go in and something happens to them, you're responsible in that. So my time on the tactical team was probably one of the more stressful times, dealing with those kind of things. Goodness, there's been a few incidents where we were shot at, and luckily no one hit on those particular ones that I'm thinking of. We did have one guy shot years ago. But those situations are the high stress ones that you deal with, but they're also exciting at the same time.
So how many teams or departments have you been on? What are you on now?
Okay, well, as far as department per se, I've only worked in the Marshall County Sheriff's Office. I started that career in 1999 when Terry Anderson was sheriff then. He hired me and sent me to the academy. At that time was a 16-week program you have to go to at Eastern Kentucky University. So I started there, and I've always been with Marshall County. In fact, I retired from Marshall County Sheriff's Office in 2019, stayed off about 2 months, and then went back to employment with them. But as far as if you're asking positions that I've worked throughout the department, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, when I first hired in, I hired in as a patrol deputy. Spent a few years there, actually from '99 to 2006 as a patrol deputy. From there, I promoted to the detective's office, and of course, we primarily work investigations there. And I was what's called a general investigator, and so I worked the detective's office doing general investigations. I was fortunate enough under Sheriff Byers to get promoted to sergeant, and then from sergeant in detectives to lieutenant in detectives, and from lieutenant to captain. Which is actually, I retired in 19 as the detective captain. The guy that took my position when I retired, when I came back a few months later, he ended up retiring. And so then I was promoted back to that same position. So those are kind of the positions. Also, like I said, I served on the tactical team as an operator and then also as the team leader there.
So back to the question before.
Sure.
Like situations that you remain calm in.
Okay, sure.
So what type of situation did you remain calm?
Oh gosh, well, remain calm. I mean, obviously, and we're here at the school, and I hate to bring it up, but the school shooting was probably the most stressful call I've ever had, bar none, in my life. To remain calm and how you remain calm, it's going to reflect back to your training. I remember pulling in the parking lot that day and just the scene of kids running in different directions, and some are injured and hurt, and it's overwhelming to your senses when you first pull in, knowing what to do. And then your training kicks in. My job at that point in time was to find this guy. So you get out of the car and you kind of your mind kind of just falls back to your training. And we train constantly, whether it be your basic training in the academy, or every year we have to do what's called continuing education. We do that 40 hours every year. And then with specialized training, like for example, the SWAT team, there will be additional trainings you go to, and detectives office, there's additional trainings you go to for more specialized training. So that training is really what gets you through those stressful situations. Your mind kind of reverts back to your training, and you fall into that, and you get through it, and you really don't think about it much until after those stressful situations are over. And then when you reflect back and you think about it, you're like, man, how did I get through that? But your mind kind of goes into a spot of just knowing what to do.
So basically what you're saying, a lot of training.
Basically, there's three things in law enforcement. There's training, training, and training.
So, so why do you want a career in law, since it's such a
Sure.
big job and such a stressful and could be dangerous job?
Right. Well, my daddy was a minister. He worked at a church. He pastored a church he was associate pastor for my entire life. And he had a servant to those people and was always there for them. And I wanted to help people. To be honest, I wasn't interested in going to ministry and being a preacher. That didn't seem like my thing. But I knew I wanted to help people in some aspect. And at the time, as a young guy, law enforcement sounded like you get to help people in one aspect, and then also it's fun, it's exciting, and then on the other side, you're not doing the same thing every day. I knew I didn't want to go do a 9 to 5 where I had the same routine day in, day out every day. And so I thought, boy, that seems like that fits me. You get to, do different things every day and different situations every day, and at the same time help people. So that's why I went that route. And I probably watched too much TV and thought it was going to be a lot of chasing bad guys all day, every day too.
So speaking of TV,
Oh no.
In movies and everything, cops always get the donuts and everything.
Yes.
Does that actually happen at the office or at the department?
I'm going to tell you this right now. Donuts are good. They're very good, and that's why we like them.
So,
they're power rings, though. Everybody knows they're power rings. They're not donuts. Cops eat power rings.
Okay.
So if you'd like to bring some, we're located at 52 Judicial Drive.
So could you, so a little birdie told me that you fly drones as a side job.
Oh boy, okay.
And I heard that you've lost a couple. Could you explain that?
I hate to bring this up on a national televised broadcast like this, but yes, I have my 107 for drones, and I do a little bit of flying for realtors. We have to get a commercial license, and we can make a little side money, so it's a little side gig. But when I first had my first drone, it was just a hobbyist and enjoying myself. I didn't have a very expensive drone, so it wouldn't return to you on its own when the battery got low. So I was out cruising over the lake and taking some good video of sailboats, actually. I saw one way across the lake, thought, well, that'd be a great one. Well, my battery got dead about halfway out there and baptized that thing right in the middle of Kentucky Lake, and it was over. And another time I was climbing some rocks thinking, ooh, I'll get on top of these rocks. And the drone I had at that point was the different drone. It had an emergency kill button on the controller, which just makes it turn off, and I lost that one out in the Garden of the Gods. So yeah, that was
So being a cop, you're always on call.
Always on
or
call.
Be a police officer or a detective.
That's true.
And you're always on call. How does that affect your personal life?
Well, that affects you a lot. With the Sheriff's Department right now, we're a small rural agency, so we don't have on-call schedules where you're paid to be on call and that rotate out. With general investigations like what I work, we've got 2 people that work general investigations. So we're always on call. Good example is we're what's subject to call. They say you can refuse, but I think you refuse too many, you're probably not going to stay in the position very long. But no, I've been at the movies with my wife, and my phone go off and a bad case come in. You have to get up and leave. Holidays, there's been several where you might be eating Thanksgiving dinner and have to go into work. But more than that, I guess, is the times that they call you 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. Your phone goes off, and you've got to wake up and get out and go. But that's just part of the job that comes with it.
So, what is your typical work week?
Typical work week, wow. Well, at the sheriff's office, the job that I do, patrol guys will go out and they'll answer those immediate calls. And let's say it's a domestic disturbance. Those guys are going to go out there, they'll make an initial arrest, quick arrest. But if it's, say, a burglary that's going to take a long investigation or more time, they'll forward that on to the detectives. So when I come in on a Monday morning, over the weekend, there might be, a dozen different cases of things that patrol guys have forwarded on for further investigation. So our typical work week is going to be sorting through, we're going to work priority of life first. For a good example, we work a lot of sexual assaults. If we have one of those come in, we're going to work that before we work the lawnmower that got stolen out of somebody's shed, right? So those are the kind of things you prioritize, you come in, you work those first, and then sometimes, unfortunately, because we are a small agency, there might be some cases we don't ever get to. In If your weed eater got stolen, that's not going to get as much attention as someone who's been, seriously physically assaulted.
So what is the biggest challenge for this job?
Biggest challenge for this job. Goodness, I don't know that I've been asked that one before. The biggest challenge. I think the biggest challenge in it is to learn how to balance, your life. Some people get into law enforcement and their whole identity gets caught up in being a police officer. They only associate with cops. They only run around with other cops. And you can get kind of jaded when you're that way, and all you see is the bad stuff in the community. So I think the big challenge for most of us is be a well-rounded person, keep some hobbies and friends that are outside of law enforcement. Go out with those guys and, just maintain a more balanced life, whether that be your spiritual side, your physical side, but just staying well-rounded all the way around instead of getting sucked into my entire life is in being a cop. Because this is a temporary job, it's, we're only going to be here for a while and then life's going to go on. So you got to be able to balance your family life, your social life, and just focus on that.
Can I draw up like a situation for you?
Sure, you go right ahead.
So say there's a 17-year-old.
Okay.
About 5'7.5",
Okay.
5'8" on a good day.
Okay.
And he's driving. He's about
I think I see where you're going. Does he drive a silver Toyota truck?
maybe
Maybe, okay.
And he's going-
Wear glasses.
considerably.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
He's going about 10 or 15 over the speed limit.
10 or 15 over.
If he got pulled over, could his uncle possibly get him out of a speeding ticket?
Ooh, now that's a great question. No.
Okay.
Yeah, and seriously, with speeding, we try to give a little bit of leeway there. You're not going to get a ticket for 2-3 miles an hour over, but when you start breaking 10, 15 miles an hour, you can expect a ticket, and your uncle would have to treat you the same as he does anybody else because that's what's fair, right?
Yeah, that's fair. Darn. So this has been the Marshall Close-Up. I would like to thank Matt Hilbrecht for coming out.
Thank you for having us.
And this is Ryan, and this is the Marshall Close-Up.